Whenever I finish my trainings, I always leave my email ID and my office number and tell people to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Because I do firmly believe that learning should not end when you unplug your laptop and pick it up and leave. People have questions afterwards. They go and implement all the skills that you've taught. So I receive about 120 questions a month, and I personally answer all my emails and their questions and engage with them. If you can actually help people achieve their goals, that's important to me.
Hello everyone, my name is Shrikant. I am the host of the show Inspire Someone Today. This podcast brings in personalities from a cross section of our society who will share their perspectives, learnings, hacks, and experiences that can inspire all of us in our journeys. Come, join me on this ride. Hello all. My guest today is a renowned expert in the field of business etiquette and executive presence. Fresh from the launch of her new book, Executive Presence, Shital Kakkar shares tips on building executive presence quotient, research-based formula to enhance executive presence, and much more. Join me as we unravel the gift of executive presence from Shital.
Thank you, Shrikant. Wonderful to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to interacting with your listeners. I'm Shital Kakkar Mehra. I have been conducting workshops and training large corporations and senior leaders for the last 22 years, and have interacted with over 50,000 participants across Asia. It's been a wonderful journey, and I look forward to interacting with your listeners. Thank you so much.
Shital, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think it's a pleasure and honor to welcome you onto the show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So, Shital, we'll jump right in. You have been one of the premier executive presence coach in India, having been the coach of choice for a lot of the CEOs. We'll start from the fundamentals. Executive presence is easy to spot, but yet tough to define. So, what is executive presence?
You summed it up so beautifully. It is a mysterious factor. I call it the it factor or the X factor. And like you said, it's easy to spot but difficult to define. And I figured that out in the 3 years of research that I did for the book. Everybody knew people who had it, but nobody knew what were the qualities that went into it. So initially, I started collecting a lot of words to describe executive presence. So people threw a lot of words in. They would say confidence, leadership, knowledge, charisma, all kinds of words came in. But finally, after 3 years of research, there is a there is a formula behind it. And if I had to define it, I would say in one sentence, it is a quality which a leader displays or demonstrates their ability and inspires confidence in people and stakeholders to get the job done. So it is an overall self-confidence, a quiet confidence of a leader, which is a very important critical leadership trait. In fact, I would call it a skill because a trait is something that you're born with, a skill is something that can be acquired. So yes, this is something that can be acquired definitely with a lot of with awareness and building up on it.
Interesting. You mentioned it as a skill. And if you look at it, even in our academics, lot of emphasis is on technical stuff, right? Executive presence, all of these are the soft skills. So for somebody who is at the cusp of joining the workforce or people who are already in the workforce, what are those 2 or 3 things that you would recommend so that they can develop or enhance their executive presence?
Super. One, I would say knowledge is power. It is the foundation on which corporate careers are built. So, content definitely is king. Whether it is your own technical skills or building a general awareness of the world, the economy, your industry at a macro level, understanding how the world is operating, where it's headed. So, yes, it is your technical skills along with a lot of information about current events and as well as awareness building. So, that is a must have. The second, of course, is your ability to articulate a thought. So, can you think of something which is crisp, clear, and deliver it such that your audience can understand it. I have noticed that leaders are able to articulate a thought in a very effective way. And secondly, without using much jargon, they are able to communicate it very effectively so that their audience can understand it in the first chance itself. So I think clear, crisp communication is also a very important skill. Thirdly, of course, your ability to inspire trust and confidence. So it could be the way you conduct yourself as a professional. It could be your punctuality, your ability to meet deadlines, build relationships. But all of it falls into the spectrum of conveying professionalism and inspiring confidence that you can get the job done. So, yes, one is knowledge, two is communication, and three is inspiring confidence in your stakeholders.
Excellent. Knowledge, communication, and inspiring confidence. So, those are the awareness things that one would need to know to enhance their executive presence quotient. So, continuing with that, Sheetal, if you look at the current situation that we are all in, I think it's even more hard when you're sitting in a virtual environment and still expected to demonstrate executive presence. So, what is your mantra in for the current circumstance?
Last 5 months, because of the pandemic, things have changed drastically. Now, the good news is that all of us have got a strong in person foundation with our colleagues, bosses, clients. So, we all met them, we have interacted with them, we've done a lot of business with them. So, we are not really building new relationships. We are only leveraging the relationships that already existed. But having said that, in the virtual world, it is even tougher to build trust and inspire confidence. So I think people have to definitely work harder. One is that your visibility is important. That means how you present yourself on a screen, whether it is the way you dress, it's the way you speak, it's the background, it's the way your frame shows up so that it can inspire trust, confidence, and show that you're professional. You have to send a very strong signal saying, I'm serious, I mean business. Secondly, body language signals and non-verbal signals are compromised. See, in a face to face meeting, you see the whole person. You see the micro expressions on their face. You actually see a lot more of their physical body. Here, you're seeing possibly one third or one fourth of the body. So, you have to become sharper with non-verbal cues. That has become very important, which means that you should be sharper in seeing how are people communicating. Are they looking upset? Is something off? So, yes, your radar has to be up on that. Also, I feel that it's interesting, but introverts and extroverts have behaved differently in a virtual world. I noticed that some people were extremely introverted in face to face interactions, but put them on a screen and they have come alive. On the other hand, some were extremely extroverted in face-to-face interactions in offices and in my interacting with clients and participants, but they have gone into a shell when you put them in front of a screen, so they're frozen. So I think that's very interesting that some people have really blossomed in front of a screen, whereas others have frozen. So I guess it's our internal inhibitions also that weighs up. Finally, I feel that in a virtual world, you have to speak up. It's more important because everybody is on a screen. Hierarchies have broken down. It's not that you have a long conference room table where the boss sits at the head of the table. Today, everybody has the same slot on the screen in terms of how many square inches of you are visible. But having said that, I think it's important for people to speak up and to log a point in and because to interrupt or interject or say something that they mean or something that they stand for. So I think yes, ability to speak up is something that people have to focus on.
And Sheetal, what motivated you to take a career as an executive presence coach? How has the journey been? You have clocked more than 2 decades in this space. So, what was your motivation and how has the journey been?
It was not really so much by design, but by default. I started the journey in 1998 when this industry was really very small. Most people had not even heard about what I do and why I do it. I met a lot of CEOs, HR heads. Some of them even said, yes, please come and teach, but do you want us to pay you for it? So they clearly felt that this was a wonderful platform for Shital to practice her skills and polish her skills, but they didn't think that it would convert into numbers. But I think over the years, Shrikant, what ended up happening is that they realized that soft skills is also a form of business intelligence, and it directly impacts the bottom lines of companies. So they started making investment in this kind of a training, and they also felt that this training had an ROI which converted to building relationships and, of course, employees interacting with their customers and getting business. So that's where the journey started. It's been 22 years, and I've interacted with some of the largest multinational companies in India, very large industry houses from India, and big and small firms, consulting, legal. So, yes, it's been a very good journey. I've enjoyed all my interactions with professionals of India.
And what would be your 2 cents of advice if somebody is looking up to make a career out of being an executive presence coach?
I would say that you have to interact with people and be very real. It's very important that you are accessible, you are available, and you stay in touch with the constantly changing challenges of the corporate world. That means it's like working with a moving target. Things are constantly changing and evolving. The skills that we needed in 1998 when I started were very different from the skills that a profession needs today. So more than 2 decades later, the first batch that I trained, most of them are CEOs. It was a large pharmaceutical company, and most of them have become CEOs of some country. Many are still with the firm, some have left, and they are CEOs of large corporations. So it's been I've seen the full cycle of a young professional finally hitting the corporate peak. But I can say that yes, definitely it's a journey where you have to be available, accessible, real. Also, it's like working, as I said, with a moving target. So you have to constantly keep watching out for skills that Indian professionals can learn, imbibe, where the world is headed. And that is very important. So staying up to date with the skills needed and the gaps is very important.
I think the highlight that you made was working with a moving target. I think that resonates so well.
Thank you.
And Sheetal, you're somebody who have always been ahead of the game. When the world didn't even know what executive presence was, you made a career out of it. When the world was still grappling with the whole globalization, or at least I would say the Indian ink was grappling with globalization, you came up with a very successful book, which has in fact sold close to about 50,000 copies, The Business Etiquette for the Indian Professional. You've always been ahead of the time. And now, when the entire world is transitioning into a new phase, you seem to have figured the magic solution that you have a formula for the executive presence, and that is what your new book is all about. Tell us more about it.
Okay, so I had been yes, the first book did very well. The reason I wrote the first book and also the reason I wrote the second book was that both the topics, while at international level they are very important and professionals get coached and trained on them, but there was no Indian author or trainer who had given their insights. And India is a very unique place, like every other country is. But when you have 1.3 billion people, they also have their own strengths, their weaknesses, their cultural and diversity issues. So I felt that the first book had to be authored by an Indian on what are the skills that soft skills that Indians need to upgrade to work, whether it was civility in the workplace or cross cultural skills or entertaining or attire or any of those. Today, when it comes to executive presence, I felt the same way that we have produced a lot of leaders who've gone on to do very well in the corporate world internationally, and I think Indian talent is superb. Our leaders are very good. Our businesses also groom them well, but there needed to be that certain factor which would give them a competitive edge. That's where the second book came in. And I felt that area was executive presence. Our academic curriculum, our B schools do not focus so much on it still. A lot of focus is still on technical skills, intellectual skills, and various others. But communication and the ability to present yourself and your personal branding is something that is not focused on by any of the academic institutions or early years in the corporate world. It's only once you reach a certain level that you start focusing on executive presence. So I researched, I thought the best way to get the formula is to talk to people who already have it. So I interviewed about 120 leaders.
Mhm.
57 of them have given comments in the book as well, and researched and asked them their definition of executive presence. Once I had the raw research with me, I put it together and came up with the POISE formula, where the P stands for your physical presence, the O stands for your online presence. The I is your influencer skills. The S is your stage presence. And the E is your engagement presence. The art of building relationships internally as well as externally. So that is the full formula. It's India's first scientifically researched, formula on executive presence, and I'm happy to share it with a wider audience.
Wow, great to know that. And is it necessary that anybody who is looking for this should master all the five elements of poise, or can they pick and choose which one they can get better at? What would be your recommendation?
It's an excellent question. Honestly, I think it's like a diagnostic tool. So if you take all the five letters and ask yourself, which are your two or three strengths? So your physical presence could be a strength, your stage presence could be a strength, but something you may have a weak online presence, something which I've noticed a lot of people have. We are doing so much international business today, and increasingly, as India becomes a bigger player on the world stage, we are going to do much more international business, interact with people from different parts of this world for products as well as services. So, what are the skills which are needed? So, ask yourself, what is my area of strength and what is my area of weakness? And that will help you as a diagnostic tool also identify and work on it. So, P and O and I could be your strength, but S and E could be your weakness. So you can actually, use that and help yourself grow as a professional.
Fantastic. So we not only have a poise formula, we also have backing of the India Inc. Who is who was sharing their own perspectives of how to build a better EP.
Superb. And the readers have really enjoyed. I've received such wonderful reviews because they can identify with what the leaders have said. So it's actually connected the leaders to the readers. So it is a great journey. Yes.
Excellent. And Shital, I'm sure all of us will be very cognizant when we know some of these things to implement in our own day to day workings. But there will also be certain awkward moments. You don't know how to kind of react or respond to that. So, have there been such awkward moments for yourself, and is this something that you can share with us?
Yes, many, many awkward moments. In fact, many of them I have committed a lot of blunders. And honestly, I feel it's not about not committing blunders. It's human to make an error, whether it is cross cultural or you're interacting with people. All of us make mistakes. It's about recovering when you make a mistake. And I think how to recover is also very important. And understanding and forgiving other the counterparts across the world. Like a lot of blunders have happened in the cross cultural bit. When you do business with a particular country, you don't even understand their culture. What's okay for you may be offensive for them. So, being humble, being open to learning new skills, and of course, when in doubt, I think a wonderful word is sorry. So I think thank you and sorry should be used liberally. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make blunders. All of us make it, and you should recover. And that's what is important and move on.
Beautiful. Yeah, that kind of weaves into the other segment. You have been a very successful coach, been the talk of the town in a lot of the corporates, and you also forayed into philanthropy. So you are a co-founder of this very beautiful concept called as Katalyst. What
Yes.
is it? What made you to start this, and what's been the success and challenge of this very noble institution?
13 years ago, we started with 10 girls. We felt that there was a gap in when it comes to leadership development and gender bias. first generation students, that means it's only for women, students from engineering colleges, young women, while they were technically and intellectually very good, but when it came to communication skills, because of the fact that they came from a certain economic strata, they were not so good with those skills. And because of that, they did not get starting salaries or jobs in companies that could propel them to a higher level in the corporate world. So we started putting together a curriculum, and that's where the journey started. We helped them in their interviewing skills, in accent neutralization, grammar, English language. So we have a 600-hour proprietary curriculum which focuses about 70 to 80% on communication skills and another 20% on certain technical skills which they can't get in their colleges, like a higher level software or something. But 80% is on how you present yourself and your personal branding. And our girls have done extremely well. We've impacted 1,500 lives so far, and
Wow.
it has been a wonderful journey. Some of our students, our first batch right now, are at very senior levels in corporate India with Indian as well as large multinational companies. We have alumni sitting across the world, and I think we're very lucky. And secondly, we also help them with getting a mentor because we felt that a corporate mentor who could advise them on internships, could advise them on what are the good companies, because these are first generation women. Their families have never even been to colleges. Many of them are the first engineer from their villages. So nobody can advise them in their family circle. So they needed somebody who could advise them on which internship to take, how to interview for a job, which is a better company, how to negotiate salary. So, and of course, topics of general interest. So we have two mentor interactions a month. We have 650 girls currently in the curriculum, and we have 600 mentors across corporate India. And yes, four centers. And yes, it's been a very fruitful journey. It's wonderful to see. Sometimes I feel we have learned from them as maybe even more than what they have learned from us. So, yes, it's wonderful.
Wonderful. That's a very noble cause that you're supporting. And I'm sure there is this question that might be plaguing the minds of a lot of the listeners out there. How can I get associated with something so unique like this? And is there anything that you would want to say to them?
Yes, I would love to interact with them and see in what way they can help. Of course, one is that it's funded by corporate. So if you're a corporation, your CSR cell can help us in terms of, the fundraising. In case you are an individual working for a corporation, we would love to have you on board as a mentor for our next batch. And in case you would like to volunteer your services in any aspect of project management or technology or development of an app for us for which is specific to our needs, I'm sure there are multiple agendas which are open, and we would love to have you interact with us and contribute in any way that you can. So yes, just get in touch with us, and I'm sure if you're serious and you're committed, we would love to have you on board.
That's very nice. This is so much like this particular show where we want to create ripples of inspiration.
Thank you.
So, Sheetal, one question that I'm kind of struggling to understand, probably you can give me an answer for that, is when you see a headline like this, trained 50,000 professionals, worked with 200 plus companies as clients, sold over 50,000 books, having interactions with the who is who of the industry and academia, having a new book launched a couple of weeks back, doing your own bit for philanthropy. It looks like a life well lived. What drives you to wake up in the morning?
I really am very motivated by making a difference. Honestly, I'm pretty disconnected with everything that you've read so far. Where so I never get to read it. It's not my life. I wake up in the morning every day, and I want to make a difference. So whether it's a training that I'm conducting, or it's one-on-one coaching, or it is the philanthropy work, if people write back to me and say that it was a skill that you taught me that I used and it really helped me, that is what really motivates me. So it's that's the only thing. So coaching, when somebody says, something, you helped me on this and I got promoted, Some young entrepreneur says, you help me with pitching to an investor. You gave me those 3 tips, and finally my startup is on its way, and I've raised second round of funding. So that is what really makes a difference. So I think, that's what really motivates me, and I'm very happy and motivated to meet new people and try to make a difference in whatever way that I can. Rest of it, I'm completely disconnected with.
So, Sheetal, you have kind of authored a couple of books on business etiquette and executive presence. If, say, a few years down the line, somebody were to make a book on you, what would be the title of that book?
I would like to be remembered as a quiet person who helped a few people and made a difference in the life of a few people. But I really don't think I'm a very flashy, and no flashy title will definitely do. So yes, somebody who tried her hardest best to make a difference in the lives of some people. And that's what I want to be remembered as. And I always want to be remembered as somebody who was very approachable, and who people could connect with. In fact, I'll give you an example. Whenever I finish my trainings, I always leave my email ID and my office number and tell people to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Because I do firmly believe that learning should not end when you unplug your laptop and pick it up and leave. People have questions afterwards. They go and implement all the skills that you've taught. They may agree, disagree, they may have queries, and they have nobody to go back to. So I receive about 120 questions a month from people
Mhm.
that I've trained in the last so many years, and I personally answer all my emails and their questions and engage with them. So I think that is what it is, that if you can actually help people achieve their goals, that's important to me.
That's so nice. The Silent Assassin is what I would want to title your book as.
That's your creativity.
Great. So, Sheetal, what would be your inspire someone today message for all the listeners out here?
I would say that it's a very tough time during the pandemic. We have seen something in the last 5 months that we have not really experienced. Most of us have not experienced in our lifetime. I think the world is going to change very drastically. There is a lot of negativity all around us. So I would say stay positive, make somebody's day, be very civilized, whether it is on a phone call. Show a lot of empathy, because there are a lot of challenges that we are all facing in our personal and professional life. So I think this is one time for all of us to interact with each other with a lot of empathy, kindness, civility, and understand and appreciate each other's problems, because the world right now is facing a huge crisis. So stay positive, stay polite, show empathy, and be with each other, because each of us, I'm sure, has got a story which is extremely sad or depressing in these COVID times, whether it's our friends, relatives, neighbors. So it's a difficult time for the whole planet.
Very wonderfully, beautifully stated. They stay polite, stay positive, and show empathy. So very well said. So, in closing, Sheetal, you did mention about one element at the beginning of our talk, which was putting thought to the word. So, if you were to kind of give an example or give a tip for the listeners out there, how do one develop this whole trait of putting thought to a word? I think that would be a fantastic way to close this particular session.
Okay, so first of all, I say that read, and read a lot. View yourself as a brand and make investments in yourself as a brand. So, whether it is subscription to a magazine, books, podcasts, anything that you feel you would like to purchase, and today a lot of it is freely available, a lot of it, of course, is very cheaply available. So, view yourself as a brand and make investments in your brand. That's very important. Secondly, executive maturity is very important. That means what you're seeing and absorbing and processing, do so with a lot of maturity. Thirdly, listening skills are very important because they help you understand what's happening around you. Once you have got these three in place, it'll be very easy for you to articulate a thought because you have the basics in place. So, one, knowledge. Two, of course, please improve your listening skills. And three, whatever information you get, please look at it with a lot of maturity because there's a lot of fake information, data points all spinning around. So, whatever information you get, look at it with maturity. So, three elements, and that will give you all the data points and the skills that are needed to articulate an intelligent, crisp thought which you can share with your audience.
Excellent. Sheetal, couldn't have had a better way to summarize this entire conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks a lot, Shrikant. Really enjoyed interacting with you and all the best for all your future podcasts.
Thank you, Sheetal. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening into today's edition of Inspire Someone Today. It's been a privilege to bring in these conversations. If you like this episode and have any feedback or comments, do mail me at inspiresomeonetodaypodcast@gmail.com. Inspiring someone is like creating ripples around us. If you like what to listen, feel free to share them and let's create ripples of inspiration. Do not forget to follow me on my Instagram handle @InspireSomeoneTodayPodcast for all the latest updates. This is Shrikant, your host, signing off, and until next time, keep inspiring.